Welcome to episode 3 of AWITS, Academic Writing in the Sciences. In this video, I'm going to take you through an overview of the genre of writing in the sciences for a composition course. We're going to cover the types of genres and the functions of those genres and also the goals of writing in the sciences in composition. In this video today, I wanted to discuss writing in the sciences, but I wanted to distinguish the difference between writing in the sciences and writing for the sciences because they're not necessarily the same kind of writing. It's really important to know that within the science disciplines, there are many genres and many subgenres of writing. So this video is covering the kind of writing that you'll do in a composition-based course in college that is centered or focused on the sciences as a discipline. This is very different, for example, than writing in a chemistry class or a biology class or a class for the environmental sciences or natural sciences. The kind of writing that you'll do in a course that is in the sciences proper is going to look different than the kind of writing that you'll do in a composition or English-centered class that's focused on the sciences. When you're taking a course that's in the sciences, rather than taking a course that is a writing course focused on the sciences, one of the main differences is that in a science course, rather than a writing course, you're going to be writing probably the kind of subgenres that are science-driven, such as reports and data-focused information. You might be doing literature reviews. You'll be conducting studies, and you'll also be doing laboratory reports. These are subgenres of science writing that usually are not included in a composition course for science writing. It's really important to know this difference because when students conduct research in the sciences for their own writing, whether it's for a sciences course or a composition course in the sciences, students find a wide array of subgenres of science writing. And then they try to emulate the research that they find without really understanding that these are all different genres and subgenres within different disciplines and subdisciplines of the sciences. So, for example, I've seen this so much. Students who are enrolled in a composition course focused on the sciences will sometimes try to emulate subgenres that are actually in the wrong subgenre of what they're supposed to be writing. A student, for example, might find a data-driven study that has markers like methods, materials, conclusions, process, things like this that indicate that this is a study, a scientific study that's being conducted, collecting data from a fresh perspective. Students who are in composition courses focused on the sciences are not doing studies, right? So the kind of subgenre that students often find in their research is actually not the kind of paper they're being asked to write in a writing course. So I want to talk about what kind of paper a student would write in a writing course focused on the sciences. And all of that is really confusing, I know, but it is really important to say, right? So make sure that before you watch this video, you understand what course you're learning to write about science for. This video is not going to cover the multifarious types of writing that you might do in a lab course, in a biology course, in a chemistry course, in a natural sciences course. This video is going to cover only the kind of writing you will do in a composition or writing-focused course that takes science as its discipline, right? All right, let's get started. One of the most important aspects of writing in any genre is first and foremost understanding the function of that genre. It's important to know that within every broad genre, like the academic genre, right, there are subgenres, and then there are subgenres of those subgenres. So when you're trying to write in a particular genre, it's essential that you understand what you're writing and why you're writing it. Right? So when we're writing in the sciences for a composition course, writing the kind of text that would, say, be published in a peer-reviewed journal of a certain kind in the sciences, right? Which is the goal that we're striving for in any composition or writing-centered course. We are writing with the intention to persuade. First and foremost, that is the most important thing that you must know about academic writing or college level writing in any discipline, whether it's humanities or sciences. The motivation for writing, the overarching function of writing in this genre or any subgenre of academic writing is always to persuade. Now, why is it so important to know that? Let me tell you why. Because the function of academic writing is not to inform or educate. And students tend to get really confused about this point, right? Because sometimes when students think about academic writing, they think about textbooks that they've read in their educational career. Textbooks are actually not generally a part of academic writing, not the academic genre. Textbooks tend to be part of a different genre called the reference genre. Now, reference genres are used to inform and educate lay people or people who have just kind of no understanding or just a basic understanding of the topic that they're studying at the level at which they're studying it. Textbooks or reference documents are intended to educate, to inform, and to guide lay people or people with entry-level information or learning in the topic, and they're intended to educate them. Now, just because you encounter reference documents in an academic setting does not make that genre academic. And this is where students get so confused. I feel like I can never say this enough, right? The academic genre is a different animal entirely. And let me tell you about what the differences are between the reference genres and the academic genres. The number one quality of academic writing is persuasion. The number one quality of reference writing is education, right? There's a hugely distinct difference between those two functions. On one hand, if you're writing in order to inform or educate, you should assume that your audience is going to be lay people and people who might be interested in learning more about your topic. That is never the audience that you're writing for with academic writing, and here's why. The academic audience is comprised of academics, first and foremost, also experts and professionals. So whatever the topic is that you're writing about, whether it's in the sciences or in the humanities, it's the same, right? In this case, you want to imagine your audience as people who are already educated, right? You might be writing for doctors, nurses, people who hold Ph.Ds in your topic, people who have written books on your topic. So the function of having to educate them about basic concepts or ideas, it does not function. Academics don't go to academic genres to be educated. They go to academic genres to get new and interesting ideas from a fresh perspective and to be persuaded and to see people's ethos. Now, in another video, I talk about ethos, logos, pathos as rhetorical appeals. But the main appeal of the academic genre is always ethos. It's the appeal to the ethics, sense of your beliefs, your values, your arguments, your sense of what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's just, what's unjust. That's ethos, right? Academics go to academic works for your ethos, not for your logos. Not in the kind of writing that we do in the sciences in composition-centered courses, right? Now, if you were writing in a different subgenre of the sciences, for example, if you were writing a report, or if you were even writing a study, logos would play more of a role. And logos does play a big role in all academic writing in the sciences, but it's different between a reference document and an academic document. So let's talk about the function of logos next. Logos, or the appeal to the mind, right? The logical sensibility of the writing, such as evidence, information, research, things like this, are super important in academic writing in any discipline. In the sciences, for the kind of science writing that is focused on composition rather than, for example, lab, which is a different kind of writing, Logos is very key. Logos should be used to support your ethos. So for example, what that means is that the genre in this case is not led by Logos. It is led by ethos first and foremost. If the document were led by Logos instead, then it would be more like a report. It would be like you're reporting out. It's driven by research and education, right, to inform. Instead, Logos should be playing a supplementary role to your ethos. It's kind of taking a back seat to you as you rush forward with your ideas, your arguments, your perspectives, right? That Logos is going to help to support you and show that your points are valid. At the same time, that Logos is also going to suggest some challenges to your way of thinking, which you're going to address if you want to have good rhetoric. You can learn more about rhetoric by watching my video on rhetoric, if you'd like. All of this talk about ethos is really just to say how important argumentation is. Having arguments, supporting the arguments, and also negating those arguments to enhance your credibility as part of your development of a line of inquiry is essential for science writing. It's actually essential for all academic writing. Academic writing is guided always by arguments, sometimes called thesis statements. I have a whole video about how to make arguments in academic writing in another video in this series. One key difference between academic writing in the sciences versus academic writing in the humanities is that in the humanities, academic writing is almost always driven by primary texts. That isn't the case most of the time for writing in the sciences, right? Writing in the sciences is almost always driven instead by secondary and tertiary sources. Now, while writers in the humanities also use secondary and tertiary sources, writing in the sciences, unless it's a study that you're conducting yourself, right, almost always uses the secondary research and tertiary research to drive their line of inquiry. Most scientific writing of this kind anyway, doesn't center on primary text, although it could, without a doubt, if the literature itself is the focus of the paper, right? A lot of times in academic writing in the sciences, what drives the paper is a topic of interest for the writer that is incredibly narrow and specific. I like to call this kind of topic a contextualized topic, and you can watch a video on how to contextualize a topic for a paper in the sciences in another video in this series. Just like any other subgenre of academic writing, research is incredibly important when you're writing in the sciences. In fact, science writing tends to be like meta research, tends to be like research of research, right? So unless you're conducting your own research, which you generally don't do in a composition course, but you will or may do in a science-related course, there's a big difference there, your paper will be usually meta research, research of research. That's where the secondary and tertiary research levels come in. I wanted to talk a little bit about the goals of academic writing in the sciences for a composition or writing focused class. And I know I keep distinguishing this writing as that over and over again. It's so important because there are so many different kinds of science writing, right? So I want to make sure we're always being clear about what kind I mean. The first goal of science writing is always to persuade. We already talked about that, but I wanted to say it again, right? It's not to educate, it's not to inform, it's to persuade. And what that means is it has got to be driven by a set of arguments that relate to each other and move the line of inquiry forward. The second goal of academic writing in the sciences is to redefine or to challenge commonly accepted ways of thinking about your topic. So a topic that's worth writing about is one that's going to push the envelope. That's what academics go to academic texts for. They want to read new ideas, interesting ideas, ideas that challenge them to think about their ways of thinking differently, right? And also that push that topic into new territory. Another goal of academic writing in the sciences is to begin to move toward answers, right? With any kind of scientific writing in just about any subgenre, it almost always begins from a set of questions. And you don't have to have the answers to these questions. In fact, if the questions are constructed well, they shouldn't be easy to answer. They're probably the kind of questions that people have been striving to answer through their exploration for a long time. So there's not the expectation in scientific writing that you have to answer the questions that you put forth. What you do instead, and if you can't answer them, please do, but don't feel the pressure of that. What you can do instead is to start to move toward answers. Start to unpack your journey of understanding those questions and start to showcase new and interesting and certainly unique and authentic ways of understanding those questions to begin with. Another important goal of academic writing in the sciences is to really champion analysis over summary or paraphrase or other forms of meta-discourse. Now, summary and paraphrase and quoting and all of those different types of engagements with texts is a focus of another video in this series where I show you how they can function in academic writing in the sciences and how to use them and synthesize them well to enhance your rhetoric. However, it's really important to know right out of the gate that the most important way to synthesize text is always first and foremost through analysis and engagement with the text. Other ways that you can use text are multifarious. You can summarize, you can paraphrase, you can integrate quotes. All of these different forms of dialogic have a function in academic writing, but the most important one is always analysis. So make sure that you understand the difference between these different forms and what analysis entails in science writing. You can watch my video on analysis in science writing in another video in this series. And finally, congratulations, you've reached the final goal that I'd like to express today in terms of writing in the sciences, and this is adhering to proper format and the expectations of that format. I want to make a disclaimer here. So in today's academic landscape, there's a lot of intersectionality and interdisciplinarity in the sciences and also in the humanities and everything in between and outside of it, right? So what that means is today you're seeing a lot more in scholarship of people sort of pulling from different disciplines and synthesizing disciplines together that may have before felt disparate, right? So those lines are being crossed more and more frequently today, and I love that. But when it comes to formatting and properly citing and properly setting up your paper, make sure that you understand which style format is most adequate for the kind of paper that you're writing. Usually in the sciences, this is going to be APA. However, there's also MLA, Chicago, Harvard. These other styles offer things that the other ones don't for different reasons. In APA, for example, the citation format really champions the date of materials because oftentimes in traditional science writing, the publication date is probably the most important element of a text. However, in the humanities, that isn't the case at all, right? Oftentimes it's the name of the author or the title itself. Humanity writers can tend to pull from texts from the 17th century and show how valid those texts remain. This is more difficult to do in the sciences, so you want to choose a formatting style that highlights the nature of the genre that you're writing in. Now, in most courses, this is going to be told to you. A professor might say, we're using APA, we're using MLA, we're using Chicago, and hopefully they'll tell you why. But each style values something else. Know your style, know what's valued, and know how to write a clean, proper copy of your essay. If you're not sure how to write in APA or MLA, I have different videos on each of these in my video series. And finally, now that you know all of this about the genre, right, you might feel more confused than you feel enlightened. And I say, welcome that, right? That is a glorious thing about learning complex material, is that you allow it to be complex. You see it in all its multifaceted complexity, and you embrace that to the best of your ability. One question that students have after they learn about the genre in a general way is, how do I begin to write it? So I wanted to give you a tip. Always begin writing, no matter what it is, whether it's poetry, whether it is data, whether it's a report, whether a grant or short story, an academic essay, no matter what it is, please do yourself a favor and always begin with yourself. Don't go running off to people who are considered critics or professionals in your field and look at what they say first. Start with your ideas. Start with yourself. Academics come to academic writing to learn about what you have to say. Where are you coming from? What have your experiences been, and how do they inform the way that you think? What's new or interesting about your unique and authentic perspective? First of all, give yourself the space to figure that out. Sit with it. Sit with yourself. Start with your own interests, your passions, right? And your unique experiences, and really consider, have a metacognition moment where you really consider why you think the way that you think about what you think. This meta moment is going to really help you to inform whatever you're writing, whenever you're communicating, in absolutely any way at all, even if it's a conversation you're having with your mother. Metacognition is so important with academic writing. So take the time, sit with yourself first, understand what you believe and why you believe it. Really investigate it. Heck, get super uncomfortable with it, because discomfort is a driving force of academic inquiry. Have fun.